Good morning, everyone. It's wonderful to be here today in warm, sunny Darwin, and I'm pleased to welcome Angus Taylor, our Leader of the Opposition, to the Northern Territory here at HIA, because now's a really important time to have a conversation about the fact that, well, we need more homes built here in the Northern Territory and, of course, right around the country. But it is small businesses that are going to build these homes for Australians, and it is small businesses that take on apprentices and tradies who are going to be building these small homes. We, as part of the coalition, support builders, tradies, small businesses, and those who are trying to do those tough jobs for us all. And so it is really disappointing to have a government that evidently doesn't support small businesses. The fact that they have applied these taxes and are doing damage and creating uncertainty for small businesses. Small businesses are the backbone of our communities, and when they are not having the opportunity to be able to invest in their business, they're not investing in bringing on more apprentices. And at the moment, nationally, construction apprentices are down 7%, from 64,000 to 59,000, and that's just not good enough at a time where there's a shortage of homes being built right around the country. So, look, I'm really pleased to be here today, meeting some of the apprentices, seeing the work that they do. This government has managed to also ensure that they've removed $266 million from their apprenticeship incentive scheme, and I'm told by small businesses that, again, this doesn't give them confidence to want to bring on apprentices and to support them. So at a time when we need homes the most, Albanese and his government are doing as much damage as they possibly can to these small businesses. And can I also say, what a shameful Prime Minister we have with his recent comments that he made on a podcast, which were extremely misogynistic, not just about an iconic Australian pop singer such as Kylie Minogue, but also in relation to the Japanese Prime Minister. I mean, this Prime Minister should stand before the Australian people, stand before women right around our country and apologise unreservedly himself, not through a statement, but do it for the sake of every single woman in this country and girl, child in this country, that his behaviour is unacceptable for a Prime Minister to make such disgusting, misogynistic comments as he did. What sort of message is he telling the Australian people? What sort of message is he telling our young men? That it's okay to treat women and objectify them in this manner? It is highly inappropriate, and I've been disgusted by these comments. I just wanted to add that in right there. But look, again, we're here at HIA in Darwin, where the weather's beautiful. I don't know what it's like around the rest of the country. I certainly know it's beautiful up here, and we're backing in small businesses, apprentices, tradies, because we want to make sure that homes get built here in the Northern Territory and right around the country. And with that, I'd like to welcome Angus Taylor.
See this. A tradie wakes up at 5 in the morning ready to build the home your family has been saving for since 2 federal budgets ago. He walks onto the site and there is no apprentice standing next to him because the incentive that used to fund that apprentice just got quietly wiped off the books to the tune of $266 million. That is not a rumour. That is not a beat-up. That is the actual accusation levelled straight at the Albanese government in Darwin this week, and it is only the opening scene of a much bigger story. Quick favour before we go further. If you are enjoying this breakdown, hit that subscribe button and tap the notification bell right now. Over 90% of you watching have not subscribed yet, and it genuinely helps the channel more than you would think. It is free, it takes a second, and it means the world to us. Right, now let us get back into it.
Good stuff. Thank you, Jacinta. Well said. It's great to be here with you back in the Territory. I was in Alice Springs with Jacinta a couple of weeks ago, seeing the incredible work she's doing, but also what's happening around the Territory, and in particular the challenges that are being faced, and today challenges faced in the housing industry. Housing Industry Association doing incredible work to get those apprentices trained up and out into the housing construction industry, and we've met a number of wonderful apprentices here today. We need more. We need more apprentices right around this country, more people building houses, because that's how we're going to ensure that young Australians can live the dream of getting into a house. Of course, our focus is on restoring Australia's standard of living and protecting our way of life, and that means we need to have lower taxes, more small business, more investment from small businesses. We need to have more houses. We need to have more houses. This is absolutely essential, and we need young Australians to know that through the journey of life here in this country, they can buy and own a home and pay it off over time and raise a family in that home. But what we are seeing from this government is a trifecta of failure in the housing market. A trifecta of failure in the housing market. Rents are up, supply is down, and confidence is smashed. This is an absolute disaster for this country. Now, this government has kept missing its own targets on housing construction. It's not even close. It's not even close. So it's decided that the answer to this is to trash the market. And the reality of this is not only are rents going up and supply going down. We see data coming out from Aussie Home Loans in the last couple of days saying there's a 20% reduction in lodgements by first homeowners. First home ownership is falling. It is all heading in the wrong direction under this government. This budget was a shambles. It is a complete mess. And it is not actually taking the country where it needs to go, and it's not taking the housing market where it needs to go, where we need to see affordability, access for young Australians to get in and buy a home. That means more homes. It means making sure that we've got a balance between population growth and housing supply, and we do not have that balance in this country right now. Let me make a couple of other comments on the missile launch by the PLA in the last day or so. This was an act of provocation, intimidation, and it is unwelcome. Provocation, intimidation, and it is unwelcome. We want to see a peaceful and stable South Pacific. This is not the way to a peaceful and stable South Pacific. We've asked the government for a briefing on this. We look forward to receiving this, but the truth is we want to see a South Pacific free of the interference of the PLA and the CCP. We want to see a South Pacific that is stable, that is supportive of trade and commerce, and a peaceful environment for people to see prosperity and to see peace, which we want to see continue in this region. Happy to take questions.
How concerned are you at the range of that missile?
Well, I'm concerned it's an ICBM from all reports, so that's something we should be deeply concerned about. I mean, more generally, we should be concerned about the actions of the PLA right now. I mean, circumnavigating Australia, we know between Australia and New Zealand they took hostile actions. This is not the action of a friend. These are not the acts of a friend. Let's be clear. And that provocation and intimidation is unacceptable. Now, the truth of the matter is the best pathway to peace is strength. And that is why we need to see an increase in defence spending in this country, working closely with our alliances, our allies across the globe, to ensure that we portray strength at all times. Weakness is provocative. Weakness is provocative. And it's absolutely crucial that we get our defence spend up to 3% of GDP, that the spending is in the right places, that we're building the agility, we're building the drone capability, the missile capability in this country to have that strength along with our allies to ensure that we continue to have peace in our part of the world over the longer term.
Australia's just signed the Ocean of Peace Alliance with Fiji. Do you think this test by China demonstrates the need for such alliances?
Yeah, I think we welcome the alliance. We want to see more. We want to see more. We want to work. We want the government working closely with countries across the South Pacific. Ted O'Brien has made comments along these lines at the Press Club just in recent weeks, and it is extremely important we do that. But it also means that we've got to be clear when there's an action which is provocative and intimidating, that is unacceptable as well.
The government's expressed its concerns with Beijing through diplomatic channels. Should this be done at the highest levels?
It absolutely should be done at the highest levels. But it also should be done by showing strength. And that means getting our defence spend to where it needs to be. It should be at 3% of GDP. It is not under this government. Don't believe Miles's mathematics. It's all nonsense. He makes it up. It's absolute nonsense. Our warfighters are not being supported in the way they need to be. We have incredible men and women, including here in Darwin, of course, an important base for our Defence Force, and we need to see those people supported with the appropriate funding, the appropriate capability behind them. And that is not happening with the current level of spend by this government. They need to get it right, and they haven't got it right. They need to spend it on the right things. They need to be agile. They need to have the sovereign capability necessary for us to be able to defend ourselves, and most of all, to work with our allies to demonstrate strength.
So, here is pillar number 1, and it is the one hitting hip pockets hardest: housing. Shadow Small Business Minister Jacinta Nampijinpa Price and opposition leader Angus Taylor stood in front of the Housing Industry Association and painted a picture that felt less like a policy briefing and more like a slow-motion car crash. Construction apprentice numbers nationally have slid by around 7%, dropping from about 64. But wait, there is more, because the housing market itself is being described as a trifecta of failure. Rents climbing, supply shrinking, confidence, according to the coalition, completely smashed. First home buyer loan lodgements reportedly down 20% according to Aussie Home Loans figures, and government construction targets sailing past like a bus you just missed. Angus Taylor did not hold back either, calling the recent budget a shambles and a complete mess, arguing tax changes were rushed through Parliament without the scrutiny Australians deserve. Think of it like renovating a house by knocking down load-bearing walls first and asking questions later. Exciting for about 10 minutes, then everything collapses. Now stretch that out. Every one of those missing apprentices is a future qualified tradie who is simply not coming. And without tradies, homes do not get built. It is that straightforward. Now, let us pivot, because if housing is the crack in the foundation, national security is the crack in the roof, and nobody wants both at once. This is where things get properly tense. Following a Chinese military missile launch near Australian waters, the coalition described it bluntly as provocation and intimidation that has no place in a peaceful South Pacific. Their answer is not panic, it is preparation. They are pushing for defence spending to hit 3% of gross domestic product, a target currently unmet, with priority given to drone capability, missile systems, and genuine sovereign defence, rather than relying entirely on partners. There is also strong backing for the Ocean of Peace alliance with Fiji, because in a region where tensions are simmering like a kettle nobody switched off, alliances matter just as much as hardware.
What measures do you want added to the gambling reforms? You're supporting...
Sorry, just I don't know if you want to add to that last one, because you're... Got... Yeah, all right. Yeah.
You're supporting an inquiry into the gambling reforms. How much further should the government go?
Well, we need to see a proper inquiry. I mean, a one-day inquiry or a few hours looking at this is not going to do the job. Look, getting the balance right here is incredibly important. We want to see young Australians protected from gambling addiction. We want to make sure that the balance is right here, and that means having a proper inquiry that gets that balance right. That's not what we're seeing from this government. Look, it's always the same with this government. They never want scrutiny. They always want to rush things through. This is a government that dislikes the light of day. It never likes the light of day. And this is a very, very important reform. We have long advocated for it. It's taken the government too long to get to the point it's got to, and then it suddenly wants to rush it through. Well, the reason it does that is it never wants scrutiny. It never wants accountability. It never wants the light of day shone on its proposals. We saw that with its tax increases, its tax hikes, rushing them through the parliament. This is smashing small businesses. Absolutely smack. Well, why would young Australians who are apprentices coming up through the building industry like the ones we met today want to get into a small business when they know, when they work their guts out year after year after year and invest and put that extra time in you have to start a small business, when they know the government's going to take it all away from them when they get the rewards? Reward for effort is central to the prosperity and success of this country, and this is a government that simply doesn't get it right.
So what specifically do you want added to the gambling reforms?
Well, we want to see a proper inquiry. We want to see the balance right, and that is the key. That is the key. So we will work with the government on this. We're happy to work with the government. But the government has to be willing to subject its proposal to scrutiny. And this is a government that never likes scrutiny. Never has, never will, it seems. We'd like that to change on this important reform. It's a critical reform to get right.
Do you agree with Simon Kennedy, who says the legislation needs to address a loophole that would allow ads to be shown in every break during live sport events streamed online?
Well, as I say, this is why we need the inquiry. It's exactly why we need the inquiry, to look at how this would work in practice and what it would mean. Of course, the government doesn't want that scrutiny. So it's a good question to ask. It's a very good question. But that's why we need an inquiry to work that through, to bring people in who are experts in these areas to look at it and to come to the appropriate conclusions about what it will do and therefore how it should be changed. That's why we need an inquiry, a proper one, not a rushed job, which is what we always get from this government. They say they'll have an inquiry, they run a sham of an inquiry. We saw this with the small business taxes, the CGT taxes. We had to run a shadow inquiry next door to get some sense out of it. I mean, this is how bad this government has got. This has to be done properly. It's too important to get wrong.
Would you consider an exemption with your immigration policy to allow more skilled migrants in industries like construction come to places like Darwin, where those workers are desperately needed?
Well, there's no need for an exemption. We're in favour of skilled immigration. That's what we believe in. We just think 550,000 was way too high. Now, we see numbers out today saying that our skilled migration program only has about a third of people who are skilled. I mean, this is hopeless. We need, if we're going to have a skilled immigration program, it needs to bring in skilled people. And I tell you what's happening here. The union officials, let's be clear, are controlling the occupation lists. You know, the government is being run for these union officials. We see it time and time again, and we see that in their attitude towards AI. It's always the union officials running the show. They are absolutely pulling the strings. So this needs to be genuine skilled immigration, and the construction trades are part of that. There's no question about that. First and foremost, though, let me say, I want young Australians trained in the trades, and that's why what the Housing Industry Association is doing here today is so important. We want to see more of it, not less.
But there's just not enough local people training in places like Darwin, in industries like construction, and your migration policy is capped based on the number of new homes completed. So if those new homes stay low, would you consider an exemption to bring more people in places like Northern Australia?
Can I say those numbers will be more than enough to have the skills we need? That's not the issue. The issue is how Labor's immigration policy has worked, and there hasn't been a skilled migration program, let's be clear. That is the real problem. You bring 550,000 people into the country and we don't have the skills we need. I mean, that is abject, utter failure from a hopeless government that simply doesn't get it, where the union officials are in charge. So can I pay tribute, though, to the HIA? I mean, I think what they're doing here, this is the only place in Australia where they're doing it in this way, is absolutely wonderful. It's training young Australians into the trades at exactly the time when we need more young Australians coming into the trades. This should be the top priority.
How would you be tackling the Darwin port issue differently from how the government's currently going with it?
Would do what we say we're going to do, which is not what this government ever does. They said they were going to get it into private hands, and they haven't. They said they weren't going to raise capital gains tax and negative gearing 50 times, and they have. They said they were going to bring down electricity prices, and they haven't. $23 billion of extra electricity bills Australians have had to pay since Labor came to power. Do what you say you're going to do, Prime Minister. He's a hypocrite. He said he was going to get it into private hands. We want to see the Darwin port with serious investment. This is an extraordinary opportunity for Darwin. It should be in private sector hands. The investment should be proceeding. Serious investment should be proceeding. That's what we want to see. But the Prime Minister, as always, doesn't do what he says he's going to do.
But would you be doing anything differently?
I'd be doing what we said we were going to do. I mean, the Prime Minister's, sorry, Jacinta, the Prime Minister's done nothing here. What's he done? This is the problem with this Prime Minister. He says one thing and does another. I mean, the hypocrisy of his comments on that podcast, extraordinary. This is a Prime Minister every day of the week. He says one thing, does another. He says that the Darwin port needs to be in private hands at the last election. I mean, every promise he made at that last election, you can't rely on any of it. So he hasn't done what he says he's going to do. He should, and he should get investment moving in the Darwin port, as much investment as possible, as quickly as possible.
Just one for Jacinta, if that's okay?
Yeah, sure.
Just on the situation with Manuel Brown, what have you made of that saga in territory politics, and do you think he should resign from Shadow Cabinet?
Look, if Manuel Brown had a decent bone in his body, he would resign. It just shows what a sham the Labor Party here in the Northern Territory absolutely is. They cannot get their act together. Their leadership is all over the place. But the conduct of Manuel Brown is disgraceful. To allow underage family members to utilise his vehicle, I mean, you shouldn't even do that when it's not a taxpayer-funded vehicle, but the fact that it was a taxpayer-funded vehicle is just utterly disgraceful. And I mean, it's against the law. He should resign entirely and let a by-election take place, I believe, because this is just... it's beyond words. I mean, if anyone else did it, it's sort of like it's the Northern Territory. Yeah, sure, we're the final frontier, we're cowboy country, but this takes it a step too far. This is absolutely taking the mick out of Territorians and the taxpayer and every law-abiding citizen in the Northern Territory. It's utterly disgraceful. You know, and Selena Yubo, you know, she needs to get her team in order and act like they're actually you know, people who are worthy of being voted in to represent Territorians within the Territory Parliament. But it just shows what a disgraceful bunch the Northern Territory Labor Party are, and the Labor caucus. Yeah. I'm just pleased that we've got a Country Liberal Party government led by Leah Finocchiaro in charge of the Northern Territory at the moment, because what an absolute bloody joke it would be if Labor were currently in power under the current leadership. So, yeah, thank goodness for the Country Liberal Party and for Leah Finocchiaro is all I can say.
And speaking of things simmering, let us talk about leadership conduct, because Pillar 3 is where the tone shifts from policy wonk to full-blown accountability demand. Price and Taylor did not shy away from criticising Prime Minister Albanese directly over comments made about Kylie Minogue and the Japanese Prime Minister on a podcast, labelling them disrespectful and calling for a genuine personal apology rather than a written statement. Their argument is simple. If leaders want young Australians, both men and women, to treat each other with respect, that standard has to start at the very top. No exceptions, no shortcuts. From there, the speech barrels into the gambling reform inquiry, which the coalition brands as rushed and shallow, demanding a properly resourced, transparent, expert-led process instead, particularly around loopholes like gambling advertisements slipping through during live-streamed sport. Then comes migration policy, and here is a genuinely surprising twist. The coalition is not against skilled migration. They actually support it in principle. Their issue is precision. With a target of 550,000 migrants a year, only around a third are classified as genuinely skilled, something they attribute to union influence shaping the occupation list. Their pitch instead is training young Australians first, especially into construction trades, tying this pillar right back to that housing apprentice shortage we opened with. See how that circles back? Nothing here exists in isolation. Add to that accusations that Labor broke an election promise on privatising Darwin Port, plus a fiery local scandal involving an NT Labor member accused of letting underage family members use a taxpayer-funded vehicle, prompting calls for resignation and a by-election, and you start to see the full shape of the argument. Every thread, from apprentices to submarines to ministerial conduct, is being tied together into one single accusation, a pattern of poor governance, ideological rigidity and insufficient accountability. The coalition's closing pitch is refreshingly simple. Lower taxes, more small businesses thriving, more homes actually being built, a real pathway to home ownership for young Australians. Whether you agree with every point or not, the through line is impossible to ignore, because economic renewal, national resilience and public trust are being framed not as separate battles, but as one connected fight for the country's future. Thank you so much for watching, and please don't forget to leave your thoughts in the comments below. We will catch you in the next one.